I'm Dave Hardy, and welcome again to Say What. One of my most colorful friends and one of the best, most interesting people in this Kanawha Valley is my guest today, here for a second part of his interview, my friend, Mayor Danny Jones. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, Mayor, we had a good time last time,
Thank
and
you.
I was able to talk you into coming back. You know, this show runs about 28, 30 minutes, and in the amount of time that we tape one episode, I think we were able to cover about 10 years of Charleston history, but no one knows Charleston more than former Mayor Jones. And, you know, when we left off, Mayor, we were talking about the 60s and 70s and your experiences. But, you know, there was a whole era of Charleston that you were so involved with. The Charleston Gazette, the Metro 911 Center, you, of course, becoming Charleston's longest serving mayor, that I felt like we scratched the surface. So let's talk for a few minutes about what led you to go into the management of Metro 911.
Kent Melton. I mean, he just said, if you want a job, you can be director of Metro 911, director of the Ambulance Authority, director of Emergency Services, all three. I had all three jobs.
Wow. Did they triple your salary for that?
No, I got paid $39,000 a year.
You know, Mayor Melton was mayor, I guess, from 95 to 99.
Right.
And when I look back on those days, and that was pre-9/11, all of it seems so primitive now as far as emergency response. Where did we have the Metro Center back in those days?
In City Hall.
In the back of Charleston City Hall?
Yeah, over where I don't know what's there now. It was where the detectives were when I was mayor, where the police department was. It's probably still are.
And I believe at that time, even some of the municipalities were trying to run their own Metro centers, weren't they?
Well, they hadn't all plugged into it yet. When I went down to Nitro, when I was in Nitro, of course, this was right before that. Nitro wasn't part of 911.
So they had their own Metro Center or their own emergency
They had their
calls?
own call taker.
Right. Wow.
I mean, just operated over the telephone.
And this is like in the late 90s.
Well, it was in the 93. This is what I remember. And I'll tell you why I remember it. There was a snake, a copperhead,
You mean a literal snake?
behind my restaurant. And what in the world am I going to do with that? The dishwasher comes up and there's a screen door there, and the snake is rising up, and the snake is looking at a cat that is also back there. So I called him and I said, do you know anybody up here that can help me with this and not put it out over the airwaves? So just so happened they had a health department guy, state health department, and he came up there and took a little stick and he killed the snake. And but it didn't go over to 911.
And that was at Danny's Rib House.
Nitro.
Which was in Nitro. You know, there one person that had a lot of influence over the creation of Metro 911 was the editor of the Charleston Gazette.
He was it.
Tell me about that.
Well, he told the janitor we were going to have it. He told everybody. If you didn't have it, you caught the wrath of Ned Chilton. And see, the police didn't want it. The police liked having their own calls where they could call and tell Bessie to put water in the tub or put the soup on the stove. I mean, it was much more casual then. It wasn't like it is now. Now It's very professional.
Very.
Yeah, it's good. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you come into my restaurant, there's a calendar up. My first year I was sheriff, and it says for calling the sheriff's department, I think it's 3570169.
So you had to remember a number
You
in the middle
did.
of an emergency.
And when you think about it, that's so foolish. You know, 911 is 911. It's a noun, it's a verb. I mean, it's everything. It's a bunch of parts of speech, you know.
You know, Mayor, I even remember back in my childhood, and maybe even in the 70s, that the funeral homes actually ran emergency calls.
Yeah, I had to go to, I was in the Marine Corps, and I heard a car ran into me, and they put me in a hearse and took me to the hospital.
In a hearse.
Hearse.
there's some irony there. I just don't like to think about it.
Guy stood around and waited on his $10 too.
$10?
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, you were involved in all these local government issues with Mayor Melton, and of course, then Mayor Goldman came along from 99 to 03. What led you to decide to throw your hat in the ring for mayor of Charleston in 03?
Well, Jay said he wasn't going to run again. He ended up running. He announced he wasn't going to run, then he announced he was. By that time, I was already in it. But I was working at the refuse department, and I was working on the back of the trucks. And here comes the press following me around, and people were telling me, "Why don't you run for mayor? Why don't you run for mayor?" And you know, as you know, when you run for public office, you can lose. I mean, it's not fun. It wouldn't be fun to lose.
It's very personal.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, do I really want to expose myself to this again? And then finally, I said, well, so I lose, but I didn't lose.
No,
so I
you
won.
didn't. And you know, I don't think you ever lost any race.
Never.
Did you? Yeah, you ran for legislature, you won. You ran for sheriff, you won.
I ran 7 primaries and 6 general elections, and I won them all. I came in first in all of them.
Won them. So you were literally, and again, I remember this, but probably a lot of our viewers don't. You were literally riding on the back of the city refuse trucks.
It was great. It was. I felt like I was running through neighborhoods. I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, and I was 52 years old. I remember one of the truck drivers. He said, "Did you play football?" You know, I'm unfortunately I'm a big guy, broad, and I was running through those neighborhoods like crazy, picking up that garbage. And he said, "Did you play football?" I said, "No, I never." You know, he talked about competitively, I guess.
Right.
No, but I was a runner, and but it was a great time.
Think how much effort it takes, and we should all be appreciative every day of how much effort it takes to be a refuse worker and ride on the back of those trucks for 8
Go
hours
out and thank
a day.
those people. I don't care who you are. Go out and thank them. You see them out there, go out and take them a bottle of water or something. Ask them if they want anything. They'll say no, but they'll appreciate it so much. You come out and say, "Boy, you do the best work. I really appreciate the way you keep our neighborhood so clean."
And then, of course, Mayor, you won election in 03. What was your biggest challenge? You know, Charleston's changed so much as we sit here 20 years later. What was your biggest challenge when you became mayor in 03?
Money right then, but we didn't have any. And what we did was I announced the user fee, and it was challenged.
It was controversial.
And it was challenged. And now a whole bunch of cities have it because we don't have the power to tax. So we had it, and then it was challenged, and Thornton Cooper took us to court. I think if I'd have lost that case, I think I'd have been a one-termer. But I didn't. And once I won that case, no, there was nothing to run on. What are you going to run against me? I mean, the key is a fee for roads you can drive on and policemen you can see.
Right.
And that's the way I sold it. And it got 75% of the vote.
And you know, Mayor, later on, the city of Charleston was a big pioneer in the 1% sales tax. You know, now, I had the governor allow me to chair the Home Rule Board. Virtually every city of any size in West Virginia now has availed itself of the option of adding a penny to the sales tax.
Well, the legislature in 1991 put us into a policeman, firemen's, firefighters pension system, which by their own numbers wasn't going to make it. It wasn't going to work. It was going to run out of money, and it did. And by the time I can't remember exactly what year I did it, but what we did is we were $300 million underwater, actuarially underwater, the biggest amount of money for any city of our size. So I said we set it up to pay off on a 35-year period. But to do that, we had to do another tax, get rid of another tax. That's when So we got rid of the corporate tax, and it affected one outfit. And it was a chemical company, $50,000. But we got that half a cent, which brought in millions, to help pay for the pension system, which probably is the biggest achievement of my.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
that's an achievement that people can't walk out on the street
Yeah.
and point to, but it is a tremendous effect on the city's health long term.
Well, the other half a cent went to pay for the convention center, and that is something you can point
Exactly. And I was glad you brought that up because I was about to ask you about it. Tell me about, when I drive by the Civic Center today, or no, I guess it's called the Convention Center. Old timers like me still want to call it the Civic Center. But when I drive by there today, I think to myself, there was probably a tremendous amount of thought that went into that, going from just renovating the Charleston Civic Center to converting it into something else. Tell me about that process.
Well, it cost twice what we thought it would.
Of course. Doesn't all construction?
They always do. It went from $65 million to $130 million. The late Kenny Perdue was in charge of the AFL-CIO. And Charlie Wendell was building his hotel over there. And part of it was non-union, part of it was union. So they were giving him a hard time. So I called Kenny and I said, Kenny, one of the reasons I'm building this convention center, which is going to be at least $50 million in Davis-Bacon labor, is because Charlie Wendell's driven me crazy, and which is true. And nobody knows who that is, but he owns some hotels here in town.
Yeah, but he owns, at least I know for sure he owns the Hampton Inn, right?
And the Marriott.
And the Marriott downtown.
And I got him to build that. I got him to build that Starbucks there.
Which is one of the most probably busiest Starbucks in America.
They do, some days they do $10,000.
Wow.
It's some kind of place. But I said, they're harassing him over there, but I'd like to know if you can give us a break, because everything over at that Civic Center is going to be Davis-Bacon. It'll be...
Which is union scale labor.
And it'll be union.
Right.
And I made sure of that.
Right.
And so he all of a sudden, the picket disappeared, and Colin OSHA disappeared, and we got to finish his hotel, and then we did the Civic Center, Convention Center.
Which was a remarkable achievement.
It is. It's beautiful.
I know that at one point I think you actually turned this down. I think at one point they were talking about naming it something over there after you, if I remember.
They forgot to ask me. I didn't. I've never.
Well, you never asked for credit for anything.
Nobody's ever talked to me about naming anything. And I don't think we ought to name things after people after they die.
Right.
But that's me.
You and Senator Byrd might have disagreed on that, right?
Well, but he was different. And he was a very historic character who I got to be friends with. And he was just a wonderful person. I was in his office one time, and we were talking politics. He said Eisenhower was his favorite Republican president. And I said, well, before I could say anything, he said, I know you like Nixon. He said, I like Nixon too, but Nixon had a dark side. I said, I know.
That's a good Senator Byrd story.
It's true.
When you look back on your time as mayor, is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, wow. I'd have to think about that, Dave. Or Judge Hardy. I'd have to think about that one.
I think about that, Mayor, from my time as a county commissioner all the time, because you can always look back and say, I wish I had known then what I know today, you know?
We did a lot of good things, and we tried to make use of the money we had, because you're limited when you're a city. But we paved a lot of roads, we hired police, we fixed the pension systems, built the Civic Center, we did $100 million in low-cost housing while I was there. And Henry Cisneros was here. Do you remember him?
Yes.
He was Clinton's HUD guy.
I do remember.
And he and I shared a table one time. He says, I've never seen anything like this. He said, I've never seen so much money on such a concentrated area. It was $100 million. And we built, and there's still going on. They're still building housing.
Well, you know, Mayor, you also left off one thing that I think we all can be proud of. It was the construction of the ballpark.
Right.
That's
right.
And you know, it's hard to believe now that there were those that thought that was a bad idea. And
64% were adamantly opposed. 10% were somewhat opposed, or maybe 74. I can't remember. I polled it, and Larry LaCourte said, "You keep your mouth shut about that ballpark," because people weren't for it. And then as soon as I got elected, boom, we shot with it. And once it got built, it's so easy to be adversarial about things because you're trying to get people not to buy something they cannot see. I wanted to sell them something that I know they would be able to see. And once you get it built, nobody was against it.
No. So, the municipal auditorium. You know, there was a period there, I know when I was on Charleston City Council in the late 90s, where there was a lot of discussion about it. Now we've gone 25 years, it's up front and center again. And I realize you're not the mayor and I'm not the county commissioner, but do you have any just general thoughts about the municipal auditorium and what role it plays or doesn't play?
Whatever the mayor wants to do, I'm backing. She wants to tear it down, I'll defend her. If she can somehow redo it and keep the facade, that's what you need to do, because all the backup is going to have to come down. That I do know. I don't know the numbers on it. I don't know if it can make money or if it can come close to making money. I know they've got that civic center over there almost making money. And so I don't know if they could do that with the municipal auditorium. I don't know the numbers. I don't know what the finances are, but I trust her judgment, and I'll back whatever she wants to do.
I mean, anybody that's been around construction, building management, building maintenance knows that a building built in the 1930s is difficult to adapt to today. It's just not easy to do.
It was built with Civilian Conservation Corps money. It was an FDR project.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, D. Boone Dawson and FDR.
So when you look at it, you sort of see a relic of the New Deal. If
Right.
you think about it,
Right.
it's a New Deal project.
Well, and you look around the city and you see how many fire stations were built during that time too. The one up on Bridge Road, for instance, was built in '47, which was still the same pot of money. D. Boone Dawson was still mayor, so that was the same thing.
When you're mayor, you have a lot of chance to hear people from outside the city tell you what they think of the city. What were some of the impressions that were given to you of our city when you were
People
mayor?
hate Charleston.
Really?
I mean, I hate to say that.
You mean people from out of state?
Sure they do. They resent, not out of state. No. I'm talking about legislators and there's a lot of resentment built up. They think Charleston has too much power, and the fact of the matter is we don't have enough. Maybe I overspoke there, but a lot of people just don't like Charleston. A lot of legislators don't like it.
No, I would agree with
You
that.
picked up on that.
I did in fact
Yeah.
during my 7 years.
Yeah,
Now,
when you worked at the state.
the other thing that's occurring in our state, and this was inevitable, but now it's happening, is the fact that Berkeley County is becoming such a strong force in our state, and the population and Kanawha County is rather quiet.
Well, better Berkeley than no county. I mean,
I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's got its advantage because of Maryland and the MARC train and DC and all that. There's a lot to like about that area.
You know, Mayor, I just recently had the case in front of me where the receivers of the Charleston Town Center Mall properties, the surrounding properties, auctioned off the parking garages. As I think ahead and I try to think, where might Charleston be 25 years from now? What do you think would be a good outcome for our downtown area or in and around the mall? Or do Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't think the mall has much of a future. And I was thinking about this because you remember the Diamond department store, and so do I.
Sure.
The last year the Diamond was in business, it made $1.5 million. If it was open today, modern, with what people buy today, it'd make money. It would absolutely make money. People would come downtown. It was bought as a real estate flip, and I wish they wouldn't have sold it, but they did. And so, but the mall, which kept our tax base in downtown Charleston, has outlived itself. And a lot of that's due to the company in Cleveland that just abandoned us.
Forest City.
Yeah, Forest City. And, they borrowed in 2007 $100 million against that mall. By 2017, they still owed $93,000, and they just walked away. Walked away on the money and everything. They didn't care about Charleston. They'll be down here for a ribbon cutting, but I'm pretty bitter about that whole business. And I look at the mall and I don't see what you can do with it. I'm not a retail person. I don't know much about retail, but every time I look, there's another store that's gone. They took the best restaurants out of it. And whoever owns it now, and I don't know who they are, they're not doing anything to help out.
No, I think they're treading water from what I can see.
Well, but they could have kept some of those people there, give them a break on their rent, or let them stay there for nothing for a while. I mean, Starbucks is gone. Those restaurants at each end of the mall are gone. Now, COVID really put a dent into them, but they deserved a break. But the people that have it now, they don't care about Charleston, and I'm a little bitter about all that.
Well, that's understandable, and those of us that have been around a while, and that'd be me and you, we remember, it's almost like history's repeating itself. When the mall opened, Capitol Street was an orphan.
Right.
And then it morphed into the beautiful street that it is today. So you always hope to be optimistic about where things might get repurposed. But
I'm hoping some more retail will. Once again, I'm not a retail. I don't know much about retail.
Well, you mentioned retail. I would say you and I would both remember, and our viewers wouldn't, when the Walmart opened at Southridge, there was actually folks saying, well, that won't catch on. Who would want to go out to way out there?
Yeah.
So you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah, people need to be led, Dave. People need to be shown. And like with a ballpark or a civic center. I noticed that when I won the user fee fight, I developed some momentum on things. People weren't the naysayers. They started quieting down. Mm-hmm. And I stepped up my stride a little bit.
Well, and Charleston did well.
Well, we did.
No, you did. I'm not just saying that because we're on camera. Charleston did well.
We did
during your time.
I'm just sorry about the mall.
Well, the other thing, Mayor, you said it a while ago, and it's I'll say this: until you've been in the shoes, I've been in other sets of shoes. It's easy to stand on the sidelines and criticize a mayor, or a commissioner, or a governor, until you walked in those shoes. And I understand exactly what you're saying with respect to the municipal auditorium. The mayor has to make those decisions with the support of council.
If I have anything to say to her about that, I'll say it to her privately. I would never talk about it publicly because mayors need support. They don't need their predecessor to try to be the shot caller. I agree with most of the things she's done. I think Mayor Amy is a good mayor.
And well, Charleston is in a state, I would view it as sort of a state of transition, and as is Kanawha County, the whole southern part of the state for that matter. I think we're looking.
Someday, somebody in southern West Virginia is going to wake up and say, we ought to build a nuclear plant down here.
That's an interesting idea.
We should do it.
When I wanted to get ideas, sometimes they were way out, but I still loved hearing them. I used to talk to Brooks McCabe, and I would get a lot of ideas from him. And when I think back, he kept saying that Charleston and Huntington should start thinking as a region, and I actually think that's actually started to happen.
Okay. In 1965, we should have built that regional airport. Think what could be at Yeager now, industrial-wise. But you see, everybody wanted the handy little Kanawha Airport and the handy Huntington Airport. But you've got a strip here between Huntington and Charleston. And every person that comes in here that looks at it that's not paid, they look at it and they say, well, there's your economic development along the corridor, 64,
yes,
between Huntington and Charleston. But we didn't do that.
No.
And it's unfortunate.
You know, as West Virginians, and I see this so much when I see my daughter out in Los Angeles and I travel around the country, we're not used to driving too far in West Virginia. Other places, Charleston and Huntington would have been one region, no one would have given it a second thought.
Right.
We're not used to driving here.
That's right.
And you see the growth in Taze Valley and those areas because they have become the bedroom community for both Charleston and Huntington.
Right.
I know one thing. I think you would agree with this. The improvement of 64 between Charleston and Huntington is a good economic engine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. To just back and forth, you can see it build up. You know.
Mayor, what are you up to these days as we get ready to wrap up?
I'm just raising a couple boys, you know, and I do radio every once in a while and just trying to enjoy life, building cars. I got a couple antique cars I'm working on.
You think you might be getting back on the air again as a radio host? Your show was always entertaining.
I don't own a radio station, so if somebody's got something for me out there, I don't know about it.
You're looking for an opportunity to get the microphone back?
I don't want to say that. that might jinx the whole thing.
Well, I remember fondly when you used to allow me to come and be a guest commentator on your radio show, and boy, we had some fun.
Yeah, we did.
There was a lot of fun, and you had that very unique song that you played, the Good Morning Feeling
Can't
song.
find it. Well, it's a tap dancing song, but it's on a movie with Good Morning, Good Morning, and it's Donald O'Connor and I can't remember who else is in it. It's three people that danced in it, but it's not the same song, but it came from that.
Well, it was catchy, and I remember it 20 plus years later.
Funny. It was fun.
And I want to thank you for sharing your observations. I hope I didn't ask you questions.
No.
You know,
I hope
you are Mr. Charleston.
Well, thank
I'll
you.
say it to your face.
Thank you.
And then I don't know anybody that knows Charleston, West Virginia more than Danny
It's awfully
Jones.
nice of you to say that.
Well, it's the truth.
Thank you.
So, keeping you informed on the Library Network about Charleston, West Virginia, and one of its greatest icons, Danny Jones. I'm Dave Hardy. Thanks for watching. Say What?